Hey everyone, welcome to the second half of section 1.2 on integers. And in this video, we're just going to be talking about how to do the different algebraic operations between integers. So to start with, we're going to talk about adding integers together. If the integers have the same sign, what you're going to do is add the absolute value of the numbers and keep the original sign. If the integers have different signs, you're going to be subtracting the integer who has the smaller absolute value away from the integer with the larger absolute value. And then you keep the sign of the integer with greater absolute value. Okay, so this sounds horrible, right? But in reality, it's not really so bad. So let's take a look at some examples. First, here we have 5 plus 3, and they have the same sign, and you just add the absolute value of the numbers and keep the original sign. When both of the numbers are positive, this is just the regular addition for whole numbers. And similarly, we have -5 plus -3. We again have the same sign, so we're going to add the absolute values of the numbers. And let's just make a mental note here what the absolute value of each number is. The absolute value of this guy is 5, and the absolute value of the second number is 3. So when we add the two numbers together, we're adding the absolute values, which gives us 8, and then we keep the original sign. Here we have two integers with different signs, and so we'll be subtracting the smaller absolute value from the larger. So again, I just want to make a quick note what the absolute values of each of these numbers are. And I know that 3 is less than 5, so I'm going to be taking 3 away from 5. That gives me 2. And we are keeping the sign of whichever integer had the greater absolute value, which in this case is 5. So the answer is positive. And if we had -5 plus 3, same dealio. Make a note here what the absolute values are. I'm taking away 3 from 5, which gives me 2. But in this case, the integer with the larger absolute value had a negative sign, so the answer is negative. Once you know how to do addition with integers, subtraction is super simple. To subtract two integers, we simply add the integer with the opposite sign. So for example, we have 5 minus 8 here. To add the opposite really means we're taking 5 plus -8. And as before, we're going to try and keep track of what the absolute values are of these numbers. And then I'm going to subtract the smaller from the larger, keep the sign of the larger, so I end up with -3. Now, it seems kind of counterproductive to do things this way, but we'll see in a minute why this is a helpful idea. Okay, here we have -7 minus 3. So to rewrite that, adding the opposite, we'll have -7 plus -3. And again, absolute values are 3 and 7 respectively. They have the same sign, so I'm going to add and keep the sign of the original two integers. Now here's where the idea of adding the opposite becomes really important. This is when we're subtracting a negative number. So in subtracting -4 from 6, we're going to be adding the opposite of -4, which is 4. So this turns into 6 plus 4, which is equal to 10. So when you subtract a negative number, it really is the same as adding a number. Think of it like if you were in debt and someone was removing debt from you, it's because they're giving you money. Finally, we got multiplication and division. These are lumped together because they work the same as with whole numbers. The only thing is that you need to consider the sign of the answer now. So if the two integers have the same sign, then the product or quotient is going to be positive. And if the two integers have different signs, then the product or quotient is going to be negative. And it's really as simple as that. So this first example, 8 times -3, we see that the numbers have different signs. So the product is going to be 24. And since they have different signs, my answer is -24. The next example, -9 times -5 in the lower left corner here. We're going to multiply the two numbers together. So 9 times 5 is 45. And since the two integers have the same sign, our answer is going to be positive. So we leave it as is. Over here we have -16 divided by 4, which works the same as with whole numbers. So 16 divided by 4 is, of course, 4. But the two numbers have different signs, so the quotient is actually negative. And it doesn't really matter if the divisor, which in this case is 4, or the dividend, in this case is -16. It doesn't matter which of those two is negative. So down here at the last example, we have 20 divided by -5. It doesn't matter which of the two is negative. The two signs are different, so we know we're going to have a negative sign. And 20 divided by 5 is 4. So again, the answer is -4. And let's see. I think that's it.